Hello there, this is TVC News at 7, the top stories.
South African police officer found guilty of killing Nigerian.
Alleged fraudster Ismail Mustafa gets 100 million naira bail.
One person shot dead after a stabbing incident in London.
And in sports, Arsenal manager Unai Emery sacked following winless run of games.
Many thanks for joining us on the news tonight. We begin in South Africa, where a South African police constable, Austin Luciano Reynolds, has been found guilty of the murder of a Nigerian, Ebuka Okoli.
The presiding judge, Shan Genda, found the officer guilty on all 4 charges preferred against him, 1 charge of murder and 3 charges of robbery. Mr. Okoli, who was killed in 2018, was shot at close range during an unauthorized raid by the 24-year-old officer. He was handcuffed and robbed by the police officer who was off duty at the time of the raid. Chairman of Nigerians and Diaspora Commission had in August announced that 8 policemen were on trial in South Africa for their alleged role in the killing of Nigerian citizens.
Back home in Nigeria, internet celebrity Ismail Mustafa, also known as Mompha, is now to enjoy freedom, even if it is temporary. The court granted bail to the tune of 100 million naira. He stands in trial for allegedly laundering 32.9 billion naira. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission also opened its case in Friday's proceedings, with 3 witnesses testifying. Kemi Fola-Adeyemo reports.
Justice Mohammed Liman of the Federal High Court, Lagos, meant business on Friday at the resumed hearing of Ismail Mustafa's trial. Mompha's bail application was pushed for later in the day to allow the EFCC open its case. The first witness was Anna Ezekanaya from the Trade and Exchange Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria. She stated that there was no record that the second accused, Ismailob Global Investment, said to belong to the first accused, had been granted license to operate a bureau de change. But she conceded under cross-examination by lead defense counsel Boyega Oyewole, a senior advocate of Nigeria, that individuals can conduct personal transactions as long as it's not for profit. Peter Ademola, a compliance officer in Fidelity Bank, in which the accused had operated an account, testified that the bank had filed a report with the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit against Mompha for exceeding the statutory transaction threshold. Okafor Ikenna came next, stating that he usually sold euros running to several millions of naira to a director with Ismailob, and that he never met the first accused until during interrogation. The EFCC counsel, Rotimi Oyedepo, opposed the bail application, calling the Dubai-based Mompha a flight risk. He added that he was still under investigation for alleged cyber crimes. But the judge ruled that bail is a constitutional provision that must prevail over statutory consideration. He granted Mompha bail in the sum of 100 million naira with a surety-like sum, who must have a verified landed property. The accused is to deposit his passport with the court registrar and report to the EFCC every fortnight. Mompha is accused of fraud and negotiating forex transactions of various sums with several persons when he wasn't an authorized seller appointed by the CBN, punishable under the Money Laundering Prohibition Act of 2011 and the Foreign Exchange Monitoring Act of 2004. He risks a jail term of at least 5 years. Hearing continues on January the 8th, 2020. Kemi Fola-Adeyemo, TVC News, Lagos.
All right, TVC News correspondent now, Kemi Fola-Adeyemo, joins me now for an update into all of this. Kemi, can you take us through the proceedings today? What were the really high points at the proceedings today in court?
Well, all right, Mike. Well, from the report that's just played right now, Mompha came to court as the judge had adjourned to today now. His bail application was scheduled to be heard, but then the judge insisted on carrying on with hearing proper as agreed upon between him and counsel on both sides, of course. 3 witnesses in all out of the scheduled 6 for the prosecution came forward to testify. One, a senior bank official, the other, a fellow bureau de change operator, and of course there was also another who happens to be a bank official from the commercial bank where Momphas said company had an operational bank account. And so it was a little bit of this and that. Now, the cross-examination handled by Momphas' defense lawyer, they were able to establish now from the examination, during cross-examination I should say, that Mompha could have helped his friends now to change currency for his friends now. But we wait to see how it all pans out, whether indeed Mompha operated an illegal bureau de change business, or whether he was merely helping his friends. If he was helping his friends, there will now be a question of whether he was liable for the said crime.
All right, so what could likely play out as this case is going on now? What are the scenarios that can emanate from this?
All right, Mike, he's being tried for fraud, the general said offense of fraud. There's also the charge of money laundering hanging over his head, and of course the other detail about whether he indeed operated an illegal BDC. The EFCC, in opposing his bail application, was also putting to the judge that he's also been tried for additional charges, this time around specific cybercrime charges now. But we'll wait and see how it all plays out. The judge has already said today in granting bail to the accused that nothing stops the EFCC from carrying on with its additional investigation. That's why the judge said he must be presenting himself to the EFCC Lagos office every 2 weeks. So it's all a matter of for the EFCC to plead its case beyond reasonable doubt whether the accused is indeed guilty. So first it will be the EFCC proving its case or bringing all its 6 witnesses, and then the defense will have an option of applying to the court for a no-case submission, belittling whatever evidence the EFCC may have able to gather. If the judge grants for the defense, that's the no-case submission, then the case is out. The case, right. The accused will be acquitted. Okay. We'll wait and see indeed how things play out as this trial progresses.
Kemi Foladeyemo, thank you very much for bringing us up to speed on this.